Year 10 and 11, welcome to an example response comparing identity and conflict in tissue and one other poem. It's an example response, as I said, by a student in time conditions, would easily hit your grade 8, your grade 9. So let's have a look at what the student's done. In tissue, the speaker is seemingly experiencing an internal conflict in which she contemplates her own identity and the identity of humanity. The fleeting nature of human life and legacy is compared to paper, showing that the speaker may be struggling to come to terms with her own identity. However, it remains the speaker is struggling to come to terms with their own actions. Conflict is presented between a juxtaposition of ideas with connotations of heroism and ideas with connotations of remorselessness. In this way, the poet could be presenting the speaker as attempting to identify themselves as a hero or a monster. Both poems use unrhymed quatrains until the last stanza. This could, in tissue, represent the progression of human life. Lives are structured and repetitive, but end abruptly. This could perhaps show that the speaker is attempting to find meaning in life's structure, or that the speaker is trying to accept the sudden end to which it comes. Both suggest that there is something that the speaker is struggling to admit or understand. We can infer that there is an inner conflict within the speaker's thoughts, with her being torn between understanding and being protected from understanding. The last stanza, being shorter, conveys the sense of finality that the speaker arguably cannot comprehend, which is only heightened by the fact that it ends with a full stop. Similarly, in Remains, the stanzas show the progression of the speaker attempting to accept his actions, a conflict, before ultimately becoming consumed by his guilt. This shows that this speaker was also struggling to admit that he killed a potentially innocent man, in a way that is similar to tissue speaker struggling to understand the ending of life. As previously stated, both poems are free verse, lacking the rhythm and structure provided by a rhyme scheme. For both Tissue and Remains, this contrasts the regularity of quatrains, thus implying that despite the fact they are both on a journey that is linear in nature, they cannot find regularity in their thoughts or feelings as they struggle to accept the truths of their lives. For Tissue speaker, this could actually be suggesting there is some form of existential crisis taking place. Despite seeing a structure in life, she cannot find a meaning to it. This suggests that she is struggling with her identity and how she fits into the world around her. In Tissue, the phrase trace a grand design is perhaps evident of the speaker's trying to find meaning in life. The noun design suggests that the speaker feels as though there is some kind of hidden meaning or depth to life that she has yet to discover. Naturally, if something is designed, it is immaculately laid out in order to serve some purpose. However, this is juxtaposed by the idea of paper being thin to be transparent. The adjective transparent suggests that instead of holding hidden depth, life is hollow and shallow. There is evidently a conflict here. The speaker is contemplating both the ideas that life has been predetermined and that it is meaningless and docile. We can also link this with the recurring theme of identity. Does this speaker's identity mean anything to such a large universe, or is it insignificant? Will the speaker's identity live on in a legacy after death, or become transparent and last? In Remains, we also see heavy juxtapositions to show the unfortunate resolving of a problem. At the beginning of the poem, the speaker is almost trying to displace responsibility on other people or hide themselves amongst others to feel less guilty. He says myself and somebody else, as well as we got sent out. The verb sent implies that the speaker was convincing themselves that they were following orders and being dictated to by a higher power. The repetition of the conjunction and to continuously add more people to the story suggests the speaker wishes to feel like this was not just his fault. Compare this to the end when we hear the line, his bloody life in my bloody hands, and we see that the speaker has used a non-inclusive progressive pronoun my as opposed to an inclusive one. The speaker has resolved the inner conflict, with the unfortunate side effect of feeling wholly responsible for his actions. Subtly, this shows the speaker torn his identities as a man and a monster. The titles of both poems also reveal a great deal about the thoughts and feelings of their central protagonists as they experience their respective conflicts. In Tissue, the title links human flesh with fragile paper. On the surface, this shows us how fragile and susceptible to change and damage we as humans are. However, we know that this reveals the underlying sense of unimportance within the speaker. Perhaps the speaker feels that, like a piece of paper, her life can be of great importance, or it can be expendable and worthless, and she does not know which it is yet. This conflict reveals that the speaker does not yet know how influential she is, or whether her identity means anything. In the case of Remains, the title suggests that the remains of the man he killed prey on the speaker's mind. This could imply that his identity has become defined by these remains, as well as establishing that the remains are the cause of his conflict. Alternatively, maybe the title shows an altercation in the identity of the protagonist, with remains being the corpse of the man he once was. You can see, clearly it's judicious, extreme detail used, heightened response in terms of the explanation, the comparison as well of subtle, what I would argue is subtle language devices. I hope this is useful, because I know Tissue can be a tricky poem, and massive good luck in your English literature exam.